Improve it. Improve it. Podcast. Improve it, peeps. Welcome to today's show. I am so excited that you are here. This month, the month of May 2024, we are talking all about mindfulness on this show. You know, we like to have an intention, and that is our intention for the month of May. So here's a quick experiment. I want you to close your eyes. Now go ahead, and I want you to make sure if you're driving, just don't do this just yet. Wait till you pull over. But turn down the noise and turn into your heart. And I want you to think of what words come to mind when you think of the word mindfulness. Is it the word quiet? Is it the word presence? Is it the word stillness? Mindfulness is a practice, and for me, it has been one of the most important tools in my toolkit. And if you've listened to previous episodes of this show, you know that myself and my team at Improve It have gone down to a 4-day work week. And if you are interested on this topic, you can check out episode 216, How Does a 4-Day Work Week Impact Your Team with Jenna McDonald, or episode 210, Work Less, Achieve More, Tales from a 4-Day Work Week, and hear all about our 4-day work week journey. But today, I wanted to get another opinion with my amazing guest, Joe Sanok. Now, as a highly trained clinician with 2 master's degrees and the founder of Mental Wellness Counseling, Joe Sanok has also established himself as a leading figure in private practice consulting through his role as founder and lead consultant at Practice of the Practice. Now, through this organization, Joe helps fellow practitioners achieve their dreams of building successful practices that bring them true joy. Joe's extensive experience and knowledge have earned him a global reputation as an authority in his field. He is the acclaimed author of Thursday is the New Friday, How to Work Fewer Hours, Make More Money, and Spend Time Doing What You Want. I am so thrilled to chat with my friend Joe. I was on his show before, The Practice of the Practice, and he's on the Improve It pod today. And if you clicked play, it's maybe because you're interested in what a 4-day work week could feel like for your team. You want to work few hours or be as productive as possible. Or maybe it's because you're feeling burned out and you need some type of practice in your life that allows you to be mindful and give to the most important person in it, you. Now, if this sounds like you, grab a pen and paper, grab the notes on your phone, because Joe is giving us all the answers and more. Get ready to be blown away by his research, the facts, and the mindfulness that can be yours in this conversation, all about how to work fewer hours, make more money, and spend more time doing what you want. Without further ado, let's get to improving it with Joe Sanok. Joe, welcome to the Improve It podcast. You are not a stranger to me, but you're new here to the Improve It peeps. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Oh, Erin, you were on my show, and I'm so glad that we're doing this. It's so awesome to hang out with you again.
I know. It feels like a breath of fresh air. I was talking to you pre-show, having one of those days. And so hopefully, collectively, your nice energy can give our Improve It peeps what they need. And through that, I will give myself what I need. And I'm just even going along with this show is in May. Our theme for the month is mindfulness. And I'd love to set an intention with you for this show. If there's one word that comes to mind that you want to give yourself or the Improve It peeps, what would that word be?
Slow. I would say slow. I think that when you look at the last 100 years of us being marketed to that there's a pill or a product that's going to make us feel happier, when you slow down, you realize that a lot of that's not true, and that a lot of what we need to actually be happier and to be more content often comes from just slowing down and seeing what's actually in front of us. So I would say slow.
Joe, can I just tell you, when you said that, my shoulders just dropped and I felt like it was almost like a relief, like a weight off my shoulders, because it almost gave me that permission to be slow. So I love that. And I love that intention. I've never heard that intention. I always ask guests this. That's a new one for me, and I love it. So, God, I love it so much. Okay, so let's talk about mindfulness. What does mindfulness mean to you?
What does mindfulness mean to me? I would say mindfulness, there's a lot of ways I could answer this. I think it's an overused word in a lot of ways, that it has been watered down from a lot of its original uses in meditation and in the East, and the deeper authenticity, in the same way that there's great yoga and there's also yoga that, it's just a Western workout version of yoga that has missed the whole point of a lot of things. So I think that mindfulness is a nuanced word that often people don't go back to the actual roots of, like, what that means from a psychological or spiritual standpoint. For me personally, without kind of going too far down that road of just like analyzing the word, I think it's just the ability to be more present. I don't want to say be present, because we all have times of distraction, and being able to recognize those distractions, recognize when we're overthinking the future, overthinking the past, and then just self-correcting and being gentle with ourselves in that, and saying, okay, this situation, this fire is going on in my life or my business right now. And sure, I could think of the 25 different ways it could go wrong, of which maybe none of those may actually come to fruition. But to allow it to unfold, and to, take that Taoist principle of being like in a river where there's a lot you can't fight, that river's taking you along, and allowing yourself to see what unfolds, and then say, I'm capable enough when this fire really comes to fruition to handle that fire. And if I'm not, I'll learn how to handle it.
I love it. The future part really got me. I'm a future tripper, like to take those trips down the river, catastrophizing what could be. And that brought me back. That brought me back to a place. I'm here for this. I'm here for this.
Well, and if you think about the brain and the evolutionary perspective, like, people that could forecast the future better than others survived. If it's like, okay, remember last time we came around this corner, like Jimmy was eaten by a tiger? Like, we probably should be careful on this corner. Like, future forecasting served us to survive. But the amount of times now, if we're like, oh my gosh, like Linda at school pickup's going to be really upset at me if this happens, and then this is going to happen, like, we're not going to get killed because of Linda in pickup line, like, so it doesn't serve us in the same way, but it creates in our brains and in our bodies that same feeling of fight or flight or freeze. And so a lot of that future forecasting just doesn't serve us in the same way it did when we were in a more primitive type of living.
Makes so much sense. It always comes back to Linda and the pickup line, doesn't
Linda.
it? It's always Linda. It's always Linda. God, Linda, quit making us future trip. But that's it's so spot on. And I am so excited to dive deeper into the conversation. We're going to get into your book in just a minute. I want to stay on this topic, though, of mindfulness, because you strike me as a very mindful person. And I know that, that word has been sort of overused. But do you have any practices that keep you grounded? Anything that you use in your day to day? Maybe your top one.
Oh, my top one. My top one thing that I do regularly is I'm very clear on my schedule. I know when my workday starts and when it ends, and I allow myself to leave things unfinished and to be there for my kids, to be there for my partner, to be there for myself. So I'd say boundaries is how I would label that. Having very clear boundaries around what I'm doing and when allows me to be fully present in those things and not worry about what's going on at work when I'm with family, or what's going on with family when I'm at work, or any of those different things.
I freaking love it. I got myself in a little burnout pickle recently. And it was just a little pickle I was in. And my last name is Diehl, so it could be a dill pickle. And it was interesting because I had a meditation, talk about mindfulness, that led me to this concept of the 3 Bs: boundaries, breaks, and balance. And I had none of those in my life at the time. Everything was bleeding together. So that is a really great reminder. And I love that you implement it. And it's something that was top of mind, like your top one thing. So that is dope. Okay, let's talk about this book. Thursday is the new Friday. And this is a hard question, no hard questions, just hard answers. How did you get to this concept? What brought you to the 4-day work week for yourself?
Yeah. So as I wrote the book, I realized, and as I've done a bunch of these interviews around the book, I've really realized that I've been living this since college. I remember my freshman orientation. I'm an 18-year-old, go off to my orientation the summer before I'm headed to school and sit down with the advisors. And, there's a small group of like 6 of us. They're kind of doing these small group orientations. And they said, okay, it's time to pick your classes. And I raised my hand. I said, do I have to go to class on Friday? And they said, no, This is college. Do whatever you want. So throughout all of college, except for one semester where there was a required 8 a.m. Friday class, I had the 4-day work week. And then my very first job out of graduate school as a psychologist, I negotiated the 4-day work week with that nonprofit and pitched it as you're going to save money on gas money because I was traveling around for a lot of it. It's going to be more efficient. You're going to have your notes and billing in on time. So I had the 4-day work week then. And there were times when there was jobs that didn't fully support that, but I've always looked for work flexibility in what I do. Throughout many of my full-time jobs, I had a side gig counseling practice until I finally left. But for me, it really resonated when I left my full-time job in 2015 and then I had a side gig counseling practice and jumped into that full-time. And that first summer, I said, okay, this is entirely my schedule. I'm going to take, at that time, it was Fridays off. I tried Wednesdays for a bit too, just to see which I liked better. And so I tried Fridays for that summer and said, if at the end of the summer, the money's down, I can always go back to working 5 days a week. So that June, it was my first summer owning just the practice and not doing full time. It was the best month we had ever had as a practice. July was better than June. August was better than July. And so when I did this experiment, by September, it was let's just keep doing this. And really, it's had different manifestations based on my family, based on travel and different things. But to really average, 4 days or fewer per week, it's something I realized that I've just not wanted to work the average schedule.
I freaking love it. And if you're a longtime listener of this show, you will know that we also do 4-day work weeks. And that started in 2023. I also started my practice or my Improve It practice in 2015 and went full time that year as well. Very cool. Okay. So couple of things. Do you cram 40 hours in 4 days or is it 8 hours, 4 days? How does that work?
Okay. So what I do is going to be different than where most people's next step is, but I will share what I do. So typically on a Sunday night, I will look at my calendar for the week just to know what's coming up in case my assistant scheduled something really a big deal on Monday that I need to be aware of. Most Mondays, I'll have a 10 a.m. meeting with my team in South Africa that'll last about an hour, and I might do half an hour of email on Monday. Other than that, I don't really do much work on Mondays. Things that guide me are I want to walk my daughter who's in elementary school to school every morning. So that starts right before 9 a.m. My sister lives in the neighborhood. So me and my sister and the nieces and my daughter all walk to school together every morning. Every day I want to pick up my daughter just before 4 o'clock. So my work day is defined by that. I don't want to be rushing and have a 9 a.m. that I have to run back from the school for. So 9:30 to 3:30 is my typical schedule, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so I've structured and realized that I really enjoy podcasting. So I want to land my week around podcasting. So Thursdays tend to be more podcast heavy, it tends to be more creative. If I'm going to do videos, I want to be done with the week. So once a month, I record with a local videographer to update our e-courses, our online content. So we have a 4-hour contract that I just go there And once a month from 10 a.m. to like 2:30, because we have a break in the middle, I'm doing videos. And Thursdays for me feel more creative because I'm done with the week. I'm done with my consulting. I'm done with everything else. So typically Tuesday and Wednesday is more consulting, pre-consulting clients if people want to potentially work with our team, and then also doing things for our membership communities. And then Fridays, I don't work, unless there's something that really pops up that, when we have like a summit going on or something like that, that it's just out of the blue. I'll work a couple Fridays and that'll be like an hour, if that, on a Friday. Most Fridays I'm going to Costco. I'm volunteering at the school. I'm going for walks with friends. I'm cleaning the house so that when the girls get home, we're ready for the weekend and not spending the whole weekend doing laundry and dishes, but we actually get to go have fun.
I love it. I love it. I love the breakdown. It's always so interesting to me to hear people's schedules. I love it. Thank you for that. Do you ever... Okay, so let's take some steps back, because somebody listening here today is thinking this is so amazing, but I work for corporate America. They're never going to go for this. And you own your own practice, but backing it up, you actually went to your first job and said, here's how I'm going to get the 4-day work week. And you gave some solutions on why that would benefit them. How could somebody listening today take this concept and pitch it to their leadership team? I will tell you this, though, before you start. We have done a couple of episodes on the 4-day work week with Improve It. And I had a person email me and tell me that because of the episode, they pitched themselves a 4-day work week. Not the entire company got a 4-day work week, but they themselves got one. So I think it's probably harder with really large organizations to make this work individually first versus collectively. So how could somebody go to their leadership team and make this work for themselves?
Yeah. I'll walk through the exact structure that I recommend, but I do want to point to 2 resources that will help with this. So one is an article I wrote about how to ask your boss for the 4-day work week. If you just type in Harvard Business Review and my last name, or we can put it in the show notes, there's a full article walking through exactly what I'm about to share. And then also, actually, because this is airing in May, there's a Harvard Business Review book that just released on work-life balance, and I have a chapter in there talking about this stuff as well. So 2 great resources from Harvard Business Review that will be really helpful.
Okay, we're going to link them. We'll link both.
So the big thing to think, big picture, is we are in a shift from the industrialist mindset. That's what Henry Ford started in 1926, the 40-hour work week, to sell more cars to his own employees. So he knew if people had a weekend, they'd want to drive places and get out of Detroit. So he did it specifically to sell cars to his own employees less than 100 years ago. So this is a new concept, the 40-hour work week. So if we just start with, this isn't something that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's brand new. There's only a couple generations that have experienced this thing that feels so normal to us. Okay, so this isn't something that's been around for a long time. So we just start with that. We want to know, are you working for an industrialist? So industrialists are people that view their workers as machines that can get plugged in and they spit out a Model T. So are you working for someone that doesn't understand the nuance of humans? They get mad at you if you have a sick kid and you're not there. They're texting you when you're on vacation. They expect if you're on vacation on the beach to be emailing back the team, and then you're a letdown when you get back. That's an industrialist. So first, you asking this question is going to reveal, are you working for an industrialist who cares mostly about butts in a chair for 40 hours a week? Or are you working for someone that is post-industrialist, that they care about the nuances of people? They don't view the world as this step-by-step prescription, but instead they view it as a menu to try things to see if they work. Are they helping people upgrade into new positions, or are people pretty much stuck? So these questions are going to reveal to you who you're working for. And if you're working for an industrialist, it's probably not going to change. You're in a job that is not going to be flexible. And then you have to ask yourself the question, is that what I want out of life? Maybe you do. Maybe it works for your family. Maybe you're like, this is what it is. I get paid to sit around. Okay. But if you think you might be working for a post-industrialist or someone that's open to it, what you're going to want to do is to first look at what are the KPIs or the key performance indicators that you are already judged on. So say you're in sales and they want you to be there 40 hours a week. They also have certain sales measures. What on your annual performance review are those numbers that they already give you? Also, the second question is, are there other people that also have that number? So are you on a sales team or are you just an individual? So the conversation you want to have with your boss, because if your boss, is cornered by their boss and all of a sudden they approved a 4-day work week and they're blindsided, they lose their job or get reprimanded for it. We don't want that. So we want to be very transparent with this. So talking with your boss and saying, here are the KPIs that I know that I'm already held to. I think that we can do this or better in a 4-day work week. I know that we have this team of 5 people that are doing it. Could we do a 3-month test of the 4-day work week? At the end of that, we look at the numbers. Here, I'm going to explain to you exactly how we're going to walk through it. And then at the end of it, we can say, no, that didn't work, or yes, it did. So then, assuming they say, yes, let's try that experiment. You get that team together. You're going to have a conversation over 2 things. One is the KPI that you're already held to. So say it's number of sales per week. And then number 2, what is the DNA for us? Now, it may not be Fridays off. Maybe Fridays are your most lucrative sales day. Don't take Fridays off then. Take Wednesdays off. Take Mondays off. Like whatever day makes sense. Maybe it's that you guys all leave at noon on Wednesday and Thursday, or you come in at noon on Wednesday and Thursday. There's lots of ways to configure it. It doesn't have to be Fridays. But what's the DNA of this group that we're all agreeing to for this experiment? That every single week on Monday or whatever your first day is, you're going to talk about those 2 areas. How are we doing with the KPI we're already judged on? Sales were up by 5% last week. What happened? Why do we think they were up? How does that compare to this time last year? So maybe sales are always up, in May. Well, we don't want to just say, well, that's because of the 4-day work week. Are they down? Well, what are we going to do to boost those up? And then let's look at that DNA of this team. Did Jim from accounting send an email on Thursday night to everybody? And half of us responded. The other came in unprepared on Thursday morning. That made half of us look really stupid in that meeting. That's not our DNA. You shouldn't have been checking your email. Or maybe Jim sends an email once a month on Wednesdays, and we need to have that in the calendar that we all check our emails at 9 p.m. on the first Wednesday of the month because Jim sends some really important things. So we adjust that culture as we go. And then we're reporting that out to the boss so that they know. Then once a month, you're going to then look at all 4 weeks that you've had those conversations and bring it together and say, what are we seeing in regards to that KPI and in regards to the culture? And you're going to do that 3 times in a row. At the end, you're then going to bring together a full quarter report of the experiment and say, overall, we were up 10% with our sales. We were down. You're also going to want to look at the qualitative things. So things like, I got to go to my son's baseball game for the first time, or I ended up coaching Little League because it starts at 3:30 on Fridays and I never could do that. This sort of thing makes me want to stay at this company. So what are those qualitative things? And then lastly, what would recommendations be for future experiments with that team and then future experiments if they were to be applied to other teams? What are lessons learned that you think could transfer to other teams or maybe wouldn't? Maybe the accounting team couldn't be as flexible as maybe the sales team. So now you have something in writing that's hopefully this 5 to 10 page report reporting out how the experiment went so that people above your boss can make decisions to hopefully expand to other experiments and then eventually create a culture of the 4-day work week.
Yes, Joe. Let me tell you something. I'm going to bring in your intention. I was slowly following that whole thing. Okay. There's the intention slow. And then as you were talking, I realized this is exactly the framework that my team used. We did a 90-day trial and we used quantitative and qualitative measurements. And it is a beautiful framework. And it is so smart, so applicable, and so tangible. I think anyone listening has the ability, and if you are in that industrial job, is that the right terminology?
Industrialist, yeah. Your boss is an industrialist.
Yeah. If you are, then this probably is not going to work, as you mentioned. And that might be the answer to your question. And then you could go interview somewhere else and pitch this idea from the get-go. As Joe did in one of his first jobs. This is awesome. And I love the frameworks are something that you have that people can find, and we will link to those in the show notes. So everything you just heard, you're going to have written down if this is something that you want to implement for yourself. Thank you. That was fabulous. That was like chef's kiss. Okay. You can't see me doing that if you're not watching on camera. So let me ask you this. Obviously, I'm hearing the qualitative things for you. And I know that my team has seen the qualitative, you're a working parent. Fridays for me, we all have Fridays off. Fridays is the one day my child is still in school that I have to be me. Because Monday through Thursday, I'm leader Erin and mom Erin. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm mom Erin and partner Erin. And Friday is the day that Erin gets to be Erin alone for like a few hours. And I got to tell you, that has changed my mindset. Like, it's so much easier to show up on Monday morning, having that mentality and that mental break and that clarity. How have you found this has worked? Now, how many employees do you have? I know you said you had a team in South Africa, but how big is your team?
Yeah, I think we have about 20 now. I'm not really in the hiring anymore, but 20 some.
So and everyone has this, right?
Mm-hmm. There are some freelancers that we allow them to work whenever they want. And so some of them just are night owls and love doing it. And, so they have different flexibility. But yes, the primary team, we're not responding to emails. We're not digging into things on Fridays or on the weekend. And all of our consulting clients also know that the consultants aren't available on the weekends or on Fridays.
I love it. So can I ask you a personal question? This is a selfish one, peeps. Okay, I need this for me. So we actually have Fridays off, but we check email at 11 and 4 just to make sure. We typically don't have Friday events, but just in the case there's an emergency or a client needs something immediately, we always say we won't respond unless it needs immediate attention. What are your thoughts on that? Because that was sort of our contingency plan.
I'd say you're training people to email you on Friday. I mean, I would just, if you have an autoresponder that kicks in on Thursday night at 6 p.m. and just says, you have the information of Erin or whoever, if you're that level of client that, needs a Friday, then they should have your cell phone. Like my consulting clients, they all have my cell phone. I've twice in probably 5 years had someone contact me on a Friday, and one of them was definitely needed. Like the state was coming after their practice inappropriately, and she was losing her mind. It's like, yes, we need to talk to your attorney today. Thank you for contacting me. But mostly you're training people to email you still on Fridays. So I would just say we no longer are responding on Fridays. We will add it in. Monday mornings, we have 2 hours set aside for our executive assistant to comb through emails that came through on the weekend. Every Monday afternoon, we have a meeting and look in Asana or whatever project management we do. We assign tasks, and by Tuesday, your stuff should be sorted out. Are there enough big picture fires that happen on a Friday? And if so, I would say, what are you doing to address your operations so that there aren't that many fires? Like, we shouldn't have that many fires on a Friday that people need to attend to them. And if we do, then we need to work up the river and say, what's happening where that keeps happening? Like, there should be better operations to prevent those things.
That's so, and I will say, like, I might work an hour on a Friday to catch up on something, but it shouldn't be an email.
I would challenge you to just, start by taking one Friday a month completely off. Let your team know, for the next 3 months, I'm going to fully take the first Friday off, and then add in the first and third and see how that goes. If things fall apart, that gives you information on how you can be a better leader. Like, okay, like if you have to contact me on the day that I said I'm taking off, that's an opportunity to say, we've got some work to do on our systems.
Joe, she needed this today, and so did my team. And they're all like, thank you, Joe. Okay, so let me ask you this. Sorry, I slipped in a selfish moment there, but I needed it.
No, I do that all the time on my podcast. I'm like, tell me how to do this. Like it's one of the reasons to have a podcast. You get free consulting.
That's it. I was like, dang, Joe, this is spot on. Okay, so how about your team? What are some of the things that you've heard about their well-being, their employee engagement? How do you feel that this has impacted them?
Yeah. I think even beyond just the 4-day work week, I have a general posture towards flexibility. It goes back to your first question about mindfulness. It took billions of years for us to get to this point in humanity where you and I can talk across computers to each other, across the nation. That's insane if you really just step back from what life is. And if we just start with, holy crap, we get to be human with all the pain, with all the ridiculousness. Like, my life over the last 3 years has been like a bad Hallmark movie. Like, it's been insane, and I get a front row seat to it. I don't like it sometimes and I like it sometimes. And like just a general posture towards humanity, like, damn, we get to be this. So if that's my posture, then if someone has a sick kid or like one of my team members, her birthday and the anniversary of her father's death is the same day. It's like, oh, what a heart-wrenching day that is supposed to be joyous. Like, yeah, take the week off. Like, do what you need to do. Like, so having that general posture, I think people just realize that they can go after big goals. When my executive assistant is like, hey, I'm chaperoning a school trip, to the planetarium with my first grader. I'm like, awesome. Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, you're not going to check my email for 4 hours. That's ridiculous. No, like the first thing I ask is, how is the planetarium? And she was hilarious about how tough first graders are. She's like, I don't know how these teachers do it. So I think people just get to find themselves again. They get to realize that work is a part of what they do. They get to contribute, hopefully, in a way that feels meaningful to them. And they also get to shape their careers in a way that they realize what they like and don't like. I want people to, on the regular, be able to say, what do I like that I'm doing and I want to keep doing? What do I hate that I'm doing that I want to hand off to someone else on the team or eliminate from the team altogether? And how am I growing into something kind of beyond where I'm at now? Like we're in a phase right now where my executive assistant is going to most likely in the next month be moving over to being the head of people and projects. She's really good with people. She's really good with projects. And so, yeah, to keep her as an executive assistant, she and our chief operations person walked through this whole thing before they even presented it to me. And she's going to level up. So to me, it then becomes a posture of the business more than just these like, oh, the 4-day work week does this. I want this to be a component of their life, but not all of their life. I want them to say, I am intentionally showing up to work for Practice the Practice because it lights me up in a way that not working here couldn't. And so then people stay. People know that if they outgrow their position, that they can pitch something else. And if it works for us, we'll move you into that. So then it just becomes something completely different than just, I'm doing this as a strategy to help people go to the baseball games more.
Yeah, I freaking love it. And people feel that in their bones, people see that. They see to the heart of it and they feel it when it's inauthentic. And I think that's a really authentic lean on making it about the human being, not the human doing. So kudos to you, Joe. That is phenomenal. And it's so cool to see and hear from another perspective. And I know we're talking about the industrial leaders, right? And I know, let's just say this. I have some people in my life, okay, who might have been, I'm not going to name names. Okay, Joe? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it. I want to. So
it's
bad.
You, isn't it? It's you.
It's me. No, but I had a naysayer or two when I brought up this idea. And it was interesting because I think a lot of people think this could never work for their organization. It could never work for them. I'll never be as productive. So what would you say to a naysayer who might be listening right now when they have the misconception of this won't work, I won't be productive, my team won't be productive?
I mean, I would start with, we need naysayers. We need pushback. Mm-hmm. We need to have people that poke holes in things because there are very valid pushbacks. So hourly people that work at a Walmart and they just all of a sudden work 32 hours, like that's directly impacting their bottom line. But it also begs the question of, why do we have a society where people aren't taken care of? Why do we let people get to age 80 and have no money? Like, at what point do we say you've contributed enough to society, we're going to take care of you? And so there's bigger questions that are revealed through that naysaying. I think what we're seeing in the evidence, whether if you look at the UK studies, the European studies, if you look at Golden, Colorado, CNN just did a really big story about them. They switched their entire county over to the 4-day work week, including police, ambulance, and fire. So it's like, what the heck? Like, that seems really expensive if you're going to have people only work 4 days, 32 hours, instead of, the other side of it. They found that they saved so much in overtime and so much in HR, not having to hire new people every few months and the mistakes that come with that they actually saved money overall. It wasn't an expense at all. The amount that they saved was so far surpassed what their old budget was that they've permanently switched over to the 4-day work week in Golden, Colorado. You look at Kalamazoo Valley Community College, who I talk about in the book. They switched over to the 4-day work week in the summertime and found that they saved millions just in air conditioning costs by shutting off all of the air starting on Thursday night and not turning it on until early Monday morning. So, and you look at staff retention and things like that. So I would say there are industries that will have to get more creative. There are going to have to be questions we ask ourselves. If you're 100%, commission based, yeah, you have to have some boundaries as to when is enough, because no one's going to tell you, hey, stop working at this point. Those are bigger questions that this starts to reveal for us. And I think those naysayers are pointing to things that we do have to talk about. We do have to think through.
I agree. Oh, Joe, this is so good. This is so good. It's like the yes and of improv, I love that. You just yes anded the naysayers. So that was awesome in a full circle way. Okay. So I think the most tangible takeaway here too is you're giving us this framework on a document. We can take it, we can use it, we can implement it in our lives. Is there any other steps or any other action items that we didn't talk about that you would like to make sure that the Improve It peeps know before we leave?
Yeah, I would say Thursday is the new Friday is definitely aimed at you as the individual, no matter where you work or go. It's not just the macro, we should have a 4-day work week. The first part starts with your internal inclinations. So what are you drawn to? There's a whole assessment in there that's going to walk you through where do you naturally have these internal inclinations and where do you need some improvement. It's not pass fail. It's just what's your baseline? And then we walk through why slowing down is where we need to start instead of having it be in reaction to when we're out there killing it. Our best ideas come when we're taking a shower or going for a walk, or maybe we drive and we don't turn on a podcast and we just let our brains go wherever. Those best ideas come when we slow down. It's not when we're stressed out and maxed out. And so I would say that no matter where you're at, start to pepper in moments of slowing down. On the weekend, find 1 or 2 things to test out and see if that helps you feel a little bit more alive. Read a book on Saturday morning while drinking green tea and talk to your partner about watching the kids and say, I need an hour to just do this for myself and see if I feel a little bit more alive. Take something off your plate on the weekend. Maybe have your groceries delivered and just see, does that make me feel a little more in tune with who I am as a person? This experimental mindset is the next phase of really how we think as humanity. It's not that pass-fail industrialist mindset that served us at the time. It got us out of working 14 hours a day, 6 to 7 days of work like farmers, but it's not the next phase.
So dope. And I love you brought that intention full circle, Joe. Yes. Yes. I always get my best ideas in the shower or while drying my hair. It's like the best time. It is the best time. And truly, my team and I have talked a lot about this, how Fridays are the days where we get the most downloads, where things come to clarity. They're the most clear. I love it so much. And I also love that you said don't slow down as a reaction to speeding up, because your girl did that after her book launch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken a lot longer if I would have just slowed down during the process and not, sped up. So I'm feeling the repercussions of that now. And I think if you have a naturally slow pace and incorporate that more into your life, it really can make things different for you. And you can lead a different life and be a leader.
I think you can, so in the 2 months leading up to my book launch, I did 200 podcast interviews in those 2 months. So I wouldn't say I was slow. I just still worked the 3-day weekend. I still took Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. There were Thursday nights that my throat felt like it was bleeding from talking so much. So I think it's getting into that pattern of slowing down and then sprinting, slowing down and sprinting. You can go full tilt when you're working. Just recognize that if you push past where you should, you're going to do really crappy work. You're going to make more mistakes. You're not going to think as quickly. The neuroscience shows us that you need to take a break and that you need to reset your mind, and that vigilance decrement is something that can be addressed through slowing down.
I love it. It's backed by research, everyone. Listen to Joe. Don't do what I did, and give yourself those moments of slow in between the rocket ships. So, okay, Joe, I always ask this to every guest we have. We say it, Improve It, that the it is that thing that you're put here to do? Your purpose, your why. What is Joe's it?
I would say I don't have an it that sustains. I think it's finding the it for that season. So right now, that it is raising two amazing badass daughters. They're 9 and 12.
Yes.
I'm a near full-time single dad. I have sole physical custody of them. I want, when they launch into the world, to have a handful of things that they leave with that to me matter in the world. So I would say that's the biggest it I have right now. And we get to help people growing these amazing businesses that they absolutely love. I mean, that side of it too, the business side of just staying focused on, we've done this podcast for 1,000 episodes. We're, helping a bunch of people launch practices, and to do that and do that well. And improv on Tuesdays.
That's right. I know. Joe does improv on Tuesdays. So that makes me so happy. And I know it makes you happy and your girls happy. You're a wonderful dad and a wonderful podcast host. So check out his show, The Practice of the Practice. Where else can people find you? We're going to drop the links to the literature you mentioned earlier, but where else can they find you?
Yeah, the website practiceofthepractice.com has tons of resources for any small business in regards to marketing, growth, websites, all those supports that you may need. I would say that's the best place to kind of choose your own adventure. And the podcast, we've got our 1,000th episode is going to go live in just a few weeks after this goes live. So tons of content over there if you're into podcasts, which clearly you are. Erin's on that show as well. So I'd say check out the podcast also.
Thank you. All right. We're going to link to it all. Joe, you're the man. This was a slow but steady build, and I was here for it all. And I hope that everyone listening has something to take away. Thursday is the new Friday. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Erin.
Improve it, peeps. What a show. I could have talked to Joe forever. And if you are somebody listening today who needed this tangible step-by-step guide on how to approach leadership in your organization, I want you to go to the link in the show notes, download Joe's takeaway sheet on how to change your life and how to work fewer hours. He is going to give you this all step-by-step. So you have the show, you have the show notes, and you have that link. That is your homework today to go take it and run with it. And then secondly, I want to hear from you, my amazing peeps. This is your second piece of homework. If something resonated with you today, or if you have a question, here's how I'm going to start answering questions on this show. I want you to drop it in a review for me, okay? In iTunes specifically, you can go down to the bottom, hit 5 stars, and write a comment or a review, and you can ask me a question or tell me what you liked about today's show. I really want to start communicating and hearing from you in this way, because not only do your reviews help our show grow and bring more amazing Improve It peeps to this community, it also helps us get amazing guests like Joe. And it also allows me to hear from you, to know you're listening, because this is sometimes a one-way conversation. And until I hear from you, I don't know what kind of content that you want and I can give you day after day, week after week. So that's your homework. Download Joe's homework and download or go to iTunes, give us 5 stars, write a comment or write a review, and let me hear from you what you took away and what you want more of in this show. As always, you know what I'm going to say. Keep failing, keep improving, because this world needs that very special it that only you can bring. I'll see you next time. Improve it. Improve It Podcast.